This is Pete Moore, Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of bringing to the podcast Sarah from New Modality Devices, who will be launching the Phantom Edge shortly to health clubs and homes near you. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So you're in Austin, launching a new venture post-COVID. Welcome to the Halo sector officially. Obviously, you've had some other iterations and startups that you've worked with. So what got you excited about this product specifically and being on the innovative side, on the hardware side, and talk us through the journey?
Sure. So, I spent actually the majority of my career working in dermatology, brand management, launching prescription products. And then I have my own direct-to-consumer skincare company that I sold right during pandemic lockdown. And then after that, I worked for a consultant for the purchaser for about a year after that. I really wanted to have a new challenge. Mm-hmm. And sort of serendipitously fell into fitness technology with a small startup that unfortunately didn't work out, but it allowed me ultimately to get connected with one of my co-founders, Jeff Miller, through that startup. And, the colleague who connected us, he said to me, Jeff's got this lateral motion device that's really incredible and unique, and I think you're going to be interested in it. So Jeff and I got on a call, first time we ever met, and it was probably November of 2022. And he explained the Phantom Edge to me, and explained that he and his brother Ken had basically invented this device. And I was sold immediately. I've always been really into health and wellness and fitness, very specifically into mobility and motion, because my mother herself had Parkinson's. So it becomes part of everyday living. And when he showed me how unique the device was, I was like, I want in. Immediate hand raise, and I want to be part of the company. So I've been part of the team getting ready for launch really since December, just over a year now, since December of 22.
Got it. So, if we go back in time to devices that have come out, and one product that have been successful, obviously, you can look at the elliptical and say like, hey, that was kind of like ground zero, when people said, hey, do you really need this type of device? And obviously that was well proven. Peloton kind of reinvented the bike at the right place at the right time. And then there were a lot of follow-ons related to, rowing with Hydro has done extremely well, counterintuitive to what I thought, they could do on a subscription revenue side. But there's also a lot of products that say, hey, look, this is an amazing product. It's hard to educate the market on the benefits of it and kind of get your own airspace, if you will, of having people listen. So what got you so excited about the Phantom Edge? Explain the technology, what the results are, and how you're going to blaze a path here to because you got to educate people. And then once they're educated, and that's not a 6-month journey.
No. So what's really unique for me and a total space in the market is the posterior lateral motion. So, you're not moving in the frontal plane the way you do on a Peloton or with a rower. And what that motion does is support in very specifically the joint health in the hips and knees. And that's really, really critical. It's not only the movement that's involved, which, you can replicate if you're working with a trainer doing speed skaters or lateral lunges, but it has a built-in friction resistance system. So you can actually get the strength training component too. And there's a huge need in the market right now because the incidence of not only knee and hip replacement surgeries is skyrocketing, but osteoarthritis overall. So to put it into perspective, 1 in 2 people will need to have rehab on a knee or hip at some point in their lives. And 1 in 4 people are going to end up with a total joint replacement, either in a knee or hip.
Wow.
And the technology for the implants is phenomenal. Those implants, the medical device companies have pretty much perfected them. Mm-hmm. There's not that much more that can be done. Where the huge gap is in rehab. How do we get patients to recover faster, better, get back to normal living, get back to full functionality so that they can remain independent and have a better health span moving forward? And that's really where we come in. So this truly is a device that's going to span both the professional audience with healthcare providers, physical therapy, sports medicine, rehab, orthopedics, as well as into the home use so that you can continue therapy and also continue your own fitness goals. But then overall, into athletics and sports performance because of the unique type of motion that is being generated and the fact that it's activating all of the minor and major muscle groups from the core all the way down the lower body.
And what is the what's the cost of the product?
So the professional unit's going to retail for $3,900. It's a fully tech integrated product. I'm a little cautious to say connected fitness because there's a perception of connected fitness of keeping people, in their homes away from other people. But what this is, from a tech standpoint, is a fully instrumented device, which is a little bit different. So because you're moving side to side, what this does is actually take bilateral measurements for a number of different attributes that's going to help not only the end user who's on the machine, but also whether it's a physical therapist or an athletic trainer who's working with the end user. So we look at things like kinematics, so displacement, velocity, and acceleration of the pedals and the hip range of motion, stability, which is really critical. So your positional variability on either the stationary foot pedal if you're only focusing on one leg, or your ability to balance and move between left to right, your endurance, which is obviously going to help with long-term mobility, ability to continue with normal daily life and remain independent, and then also your symmetry. So if you've had, say knee surgery on your right leg, you're going to want to get symmetrical, so to speak, so that you're able to rebuild the strength and get back to being stable, because that's also going to drastically reduce your fall risk. So when we're able to do things like that, it becomes actually also a really fun technology because you can use Phantom Edge in 3 different ways. There's a glide motion where you're displacing the weight from left to right, more of what people think of as, kind of your aerobic performance that you would get like on a Peloton bike. But then it can be used in single leg isolation also, both for strength training. So if you really want to get that strength and burst speed, or for very simply for stability. So in stability, this could be someone, say they're, a 60 plus hip replacement patient who's, somewhat frail. In stability mode, they will be standing with, both feet on the foot pedals. One foot pedal, though, they have to focus on not moving. It's not locked out, so it's just using their own body strength while they focus on moving the other leg in and out. Sounds really simple. It's really difficult, especially if you're compromised. And that alone over time allows them to build and grow, get their confidence back and get their strength back. So it's really multifunctional and it's helping people with their everyday lives.
So a question related to, let's say I'm rehabbing, a hip replacement or a knee surgery or what have you. How many minutes per day do I need to be on the Phantom Edge, and how many days per week in order for this to accelerate my rehab?
So obviously it's going to be very closely directed with your healthcare provider, your physical therapist, your rehab specialist. But typically as little as 5 to 10 minutes a day in very specific protocols, depending on what exactly it is that you need to do. Your physical fitness prior to having surgery as well comes into play significantly. It's going to be dependent on how many reps you're doing on each leg and how often your therapist wants you to continue treatment. The really awesome thing that I'm excited about as far as, improving people's lives, most people's health insurance will only cover about 6 to 8 sessions of physical therapy, even post-surgery. And the burden then is put on the patient to either pay for those sessions out of pocket or to just not have them. And what we can do, because obviously the tech is fully integrated into an app, we give the opportunity to allow you to not only get your sessions that you have with your physical therapist, but if you have a Phantom Edge at home, they can see your data and improvement. Obviously, it's fully HIPAA compliant, and help you continue to improve even when you're not seeing them. So if they say to you, look, when you're home, try and do 5 minutes a day or do 10 minutes 3 times a week, these are simple, measurable goals that they and you are going to be able to see and track your progress over time. And that is really motivating for people to continue to use the machine.
Got it. First off, because I have to ask the question, where did the name Phantom Edge come from? And obviously,
The name?
I love it. Tell me how it came about.
It's actually, I think it's a really cool name too. I can't take credit for it. Ken Miller came up with it. He's our inventor. So the way the friction resistance system works is really cool. It's an adaptive resistance system, meaning depending on your weight and your force output on the pedals, the resistance system actually adapts and responds to you and bites down against the force that's being put out against it. So it gives the feeling of not ever truly being able to reach the edge. So he came up with the name Phantom Edge because you feel like you continue to push out, and the further you push out, the harder it gets.
Got it. Also, we use the term as one of our slogans is like, we want to be the force behind your growth. So one of the reasons to do the podcast is to get you out there and new products and new services. That's obviously from Star Wars. There's no other way to use the force without referencing back to that. So I feel like the Phantom Edge is kind of like some kind of like sci-fi, Star Wars-esque. Like you're reaching the Phantom Edge, like you don't know where that's going to be, but when you get there, you might know, but you might never get there. So
exactly,
I love the name. As you take a look at ways to get commercial clubs potentially or boutique clubs to be using your device, one of the things I've always thought of, which I don't know how much this is being done, but like Cool Sculpting, like they actually, they have their devices in all different places, whether it's dermatology clinics or workout recovery centers or med spas or what have you. They have like a locator on their site where it basically says like, here's where you find the closest Cool Sculpting to you. Is there something here, like as you unpackage the potential usage, where, to your point, you can only do 6 or 8 rehabs, but maybe I can go to an EOS Fitness for $30, and I know that they have a Phantom Edge there. So is there maybe some connectivity between physical therapy, getting your devices in certain locations, and then be able to go to a health club and say, hey, look, we've got 100 people in Dallas that have been using the Phantom Edge here, and there's like a natural continuum that they can become members. I'm just thinking about just such a unique product that
100%.
Somebody to spend money on the home, but you really just want them to fall in love with the device, get the results, and then that'll kind of grassroots itself on its own, like the force.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're already in discussions with, it's going to be a new retail launch for a wellness and longevity chain from I can't say the name, but a very successful founder who currently has a phenomenal retail chain in the US. And their focus is very much like a boutique service of how do you improve your overall health span, longevity, and wellness. So for people who are really focused on this area for their own lifestyles. We're also very interested in getting into boutique fitness because of the nature of Phantom Edge and the ability to utilize the machine with other people in a small class environment, but it's still a very personal, one-on-one type interaction because of your immediate real-time data response. So we very much want to have that. We want it to be something that is accessible to everyone. We do have plans down the road to launch a consumer version that will, the professional version will be available if consumers are able to purchase it. We realize though, from a price point standpoint, a consumer version will be much less than half the price of the professional one. We want this to be accessible to a lot of people because it's so valuable for your health in so many ways. And it has so many different sporting applications too. So one of our advisors right now is Ted Ligety, the former US Olympic ski gold medalist in slalom. He loves the device. We've tested, one of our beta testing sites was with one of the NFL teams. and their athletic training department loved it, gave us amazing feedback. We have a pro pickleball team here in
Yeah, I was going to
Austin
say
who's been
that's
looking at
actually
it.
huge. Yeah.
It's, and we don't want to be pigeonholed for a specific sport, but the nature of the movement and what Phantom Edge can do and help athletes accelerate is really, really exciting. So, taking a stepwise approach, we know the biggest opportunity is with rehab and physical therapy. And we also know that, to your point, to get accepted, we need to get established in the professional audience first so that people start to have experience with it and then grow over time.
Right. So, just talking now and pivoting towards like your entrepreneurial hat and understanding how long it takes to establish a product, get the brand out there, get the results, kind of have that grassroots, multiplier effect. You as a let's just say you're a type A entrepreneur like us and want things to happen tomorrow. How do you kind of like go into a venture like this and say, all right, I know that every month I'm making progress. I know I know I'm getting wins. So how do you kind of calibrate your brain to say like, hey, we're moving forward. This could be like a 3 or 5 year, horizon, and talk to us maybe, from your gut about like, how does it feel to like be working at a startup? You've done other startups before.
Yep.
Maybe it's more established because you got the technology out there. It's not like, hey, I want to build this product. Like we got it on a PowerPoint slide. So talk about how you manage yourself and your expectations.
It's been really interesting because, to your point, the natural reaction is to want to go as fast as possible. But growing too fast and trying to do things too fast could be the kiss of death. So for me, it's making sure that we hit our measurable milestones and that we know we are progressing as needed. And at the same time, from a business standpoint, so that we can be successful, making sure our burn rate is as low as possible. We, being experienced entrepreneurs, the whole team, this is not any of our first rodeo. We know
Right.
how to do this and reduce the risk as much as possible. And that's something also that investors want to see. They're like, how are you mitigating risk? Well, we're going through all the steps very methodically. We're going out to who our prospective customers are. We're making sure that the final feature set is exactly what needs to be available in the market to fulfill the need that our goal is to fulfill. And in doing that, we're getting really positive feedback, and we're getting to the point where we're able to really prepare for launch, complete our fundraise with, traction that we've shown that we've made significant progress really in just 12 months. And that is really critical because, so for example, one of the things that we've done, we utilize additive manufacturing to this point. So all of our prototyping is done in-house. Ken manages all of it. We haven't had to make any capital investment into producing equipment. And as we scale and grow and we show that, okay, the market's accepting this, that's when we're going to, hit those trigger points that say, all right, now we're going to switch our manufacturing processes, make that investment because we've shown that the market wants the product, and now we can scale and continue to grow. So it is very much having to be careful. It's kind of holding a racehorse back at the gates.
Right.
But we're in this for the long run. We know that this is going to be a really phenomenal product long term.
And then just sticking on the professional side of the market, when you think about a marketing budget and you think about, your best use of marketing dollars or maybe just return on time of the co-founders together, how do you think about, you could go to IRSA, you could go to Medical Fitness Association, you could go to, chiropractors, you could go into these medical device, trade shows. You can spend a lot of money, getting a 10 by 10 or a 20 by 20 booth. How do you think about that? And how do you kind of calibrate whether it's qualitatively or quantitatively? Like, this is the best return on time, given you've been in this industry for a while. And I view you as, an authority on here's how you spend a marketing budget without giving us what you're doing now. But just,
sure.
I think a lot of people kind of rush into a trade show, realize, oh shit, I just spent $15,000. I got like 3 leads. Like, that wasn't worth it. Or maybe it was because I got one big elephant client that, maybe a year from now, this could be something. So how do you think about that? Just to give us your inside your lens.
I think everything has to be timed correctly. And that's what's difficult. If you haven't done this before, I completely agree with you. The trade shows are useful for building brand awareness and for showing your support for different people's specialties when the time is right. You need to already have revenue traction, I believe, to be able to spend that kind of money, because you don't always see immediate ROI. And sometimes, it's a sunk expense because you need to be getting your name out in front of people. But more importantly, early on, you need to make individual relationships with people who can help you grow. So key players in each sector in the industry, finding, for us specifically, finding one or two surgeons who really believe in our product and back us and who are respected in their field, finding out who the top physical therapists are and partnering with them. Grassroots social media efforts, get people on the machine, get them talking about the product, get some initial customers before you really invest in marketing dollars, because otherwise your acquisition cost is going to go through the roof and you're not going to be able to stabilize and grow that way.
Yep. Great. So in closing here, and we'll have all the information about the Phantom Edge in the show notes. I just had to do that. Sorry. I might do that later today by myself. So
I'm totally okay with you doing that generally in public.
Be prepared. Yeah, I'll just be somewhere randomly in the gym, be like, has anyone seen the Phantom Edge? Be like, who? I'm like, it's on a conference call. Anyway, in closing here, any other words of wisdom or Sarah isms that people hear you say a lot, or or a source of motivation or inspiration for you?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I say almost on a daily basis, I can tell you my two daughters roll their eyes at me: work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
So, know that you're not the smartest person in the room, or at least make sure you're not, and make great relationships to work better with the people that you have in your network, which allows you to work smarter, not harder. We're all stronger together. If you're doing something you really love and it's fun and you're passionate about it, the stress of it being a startup kind of goes by the wayside. So those would be my words of wisdom for anyone in the industry.
Awesome. Well, to a great 2024. Look forward to the progress, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Good chat.